So I used to feel like my life was stuck in a loading screen, like I was just spinning, waiting for all the perfect conditions to start doing all of these things that I wanted to do, be it side projects or a business or health goals or whatever. But somehow I managed to just never even get close to starting any of these things. And this was despite doing what I thought was all of the right prep work. I was watching the podcasts, reading the books, making loads of to-do lists. But what I came to realize, and if I was really honest with myself, was that I wasn't stuck because I didn't know enough. It was really other things that were holding me back. But now I've managed to get myself to a place where I continue to work full-time as a lawyer in a massive corporation whilst being able to keep myself in great shape, work consistently on this YouTube channel, and have a life outside of all of that. But none of that happened because I had everything figured out. It happened because I learned how to stop waiting and to start actually taking action towards things. So, if you've ever felt like your life is stuck in a loading screen, this is how to break free and to actually start moving things forward. So the first thing to discuss is the illusion of readiness. And what I mean here is that I think so often we have all of these things that we want to do, but we get it into our head that we can only actually start doing these things once we have all of the details around that thing, or once we have this master, grand, perfect plan all mapped out as to how we're going to achieve those things. But in reality, you are never going to have perfect conditions for pretty much anything. And you're never going to feel completely ready to do something that's new, because by its very definition, if something is new, it is something that you've never done before and you don't have any experience around. And the key point that I've actually really come to realize is that the clarity that you are probably looking for is, for the most part, only actually going to come once you start doing those things. Because once you start doing those things is when you do start building up that knowledge and your understanding and your experience. And so that clarity will come once you start doing. And a perfect example, I think, of this for me was this very YouTube channel. I mean, I literally put off starting this YouTube channel for absolute months because I thought I needed to learn everything about editing, and I needed to have the perfect camera and the perfect lighting and all the other equipment, and I needed to have my exact niche really nailed down. And I felt like I had to have all of these perfect conditions before I could start the YouTube channel. But that was never gonna happen. And luckily it got to a point where one weekend I was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna record a video and see what happens. And that is exactly what I did. And was that first video good? No, not really, but it was done and it got me going. And then from that point, I've just tried to improve my videos a little bit every week and learn a little bit as I go. And since doing that, I am 100% convinced that I have learned way more than I otherwise would have. So the key points here to remember is, as I said, action is actually what's going to give you the clarity that you're searching for. Action will also build momentum for you as well, because the hardest part for anything most of the time is actually just getting going. And so once you get over that hurdle, and once you start doing more of the thing, as I said, you'll start building your experience and your knowledge. And so you will start building your confidence and your capabilities, and things will just start to become a lot easier because of all of that. Point 2 is productive procrastination. And I think this is something that a lot of us trick ourselves with, because what I mean here is that I think a lot of us, we feel like we're doing things and we feel busy and that we're progressing towards our goals by watching all of the content or taking loads of notes or making all these systems as to how we're going to do things. And don't get me wrong, all of those things definitely do have a place, and I think you should always be trying to build upon your knowledge, and that will also give you a better understanding of things and more things to talk about. But ultimately, if that is all you ever do, the reality is that you are not making any progress towards any of the things that you actually want to do. An example of this for me was, I once read the famous self-help book Atomic Habits by James Clear, and I was reading the book really intensely. I was highlighting it as I was going. I got to the end and started making loads of notes around the book. I was even trying to memorize some of the best quotes from the book. But I came to realize that I hadn't actually changed a single one of my habits because of the book. And so really, I was just kind of building all of this wisdom from the book, but I wasn't actually applying a single thing. And I think a big reason why a lot of us fall into this is because that preparation stage, it feels safe. And as I said, it feels like we're doing things, but really the execution and actually taking action on things, that's where things start to feel a little bit scarier and a little bit riskier, because maybe that's where you start getting some of those feelings around the fear of judgment, like if you're going to put yourself out there, or the fear of failure around whatever the thing might be that you're trying to do, or maybe some of these other types of fears. But what you do just need to realize here is that if you really do just do too much of this preparation work, you're not preparing yourself to start. What you're really doing is just kind of protecting yourself from the fear of starting. So again, what you kind of need to realize here is that at some point you just need to rip the band-aid off and forget all of the preparation work and just start taking action towards the actual things that you want to be doing. Point 3 is the time myth. Firstly, a lot of the time I hear people just say that they don't have time to achieve the things that they want to. And I categorically just think that is wrong. I think people have way more time than they actually realize. And if you were to actually just go through your schedule, go through your calendar, you would see that you do have a lot more time than you think. And I'm certain that there will be pockets of time within there where you can actually try to work towards some of the things that you're trying to do. But the wider point here is that I think for a lot of people, it's really about the fact that they are just spending time on the wrong things. And I think a lot of that goes back to that productive procrastination point that we already talked about, and how people just spend so much time in that phase instead of the actual doing phase. And I know that was definitely the case for me. Like, I used to spend multiple hours each week thinking about all of the things that I wanted to do, or trying to do some of that prep work towards them, instead of actually ever just doing the thing. And thankfully, I did come to realize that. And so at first I told myself I'm just gonna start small, and I'm just gonna try and do 45 minutes each evening of actual action towards some of the things that I was trying to achieve. And once I started doing that, that is actually when things started moving, and I started making some progress. And again, I started actually understanding things and building up my knowledge and experience way more than when I wasn't doing those things. And so the big point I would say here is that you really don't need more time. You just need more intentionality around how you're spending your time. The fourth point is to use the fear of staying the same. And I think there's a famous quote that says, "Let the pain of staying the same be louder than the fear of starting." And I think that exact sort of mindset is something that you can really try to encompass and use as a very valuable tool. And it is something that I have used very effectively for myself, because what I found, I think for me, I've never had like some catastrophic event happen in my life that absolutely caused me to make a change. Like, I've never been some drug addict who reached rock bottom and who absolutely had to make a change, otherwise they might die or literally lose everything in their life. I've never had that, thankfully, happen to me. But what I was having was, I realized kind of like every Sunday towards the end of the week, I would start to get a little bit sad almost. Not because I hated my life or anything like that, but because I would look back at the week just gone and I'd realize that I hadn't really done anything for me, and I hadn't really worked towards any of these things that I wanted to do, or tried to make progress in changing myself in some of the ways that I wanted to. And that was kind of a little bit upsetting for me. And after multiple weeks or even months of that happening, that sort of sadness started to transform into like this real intense frustration, because I just felt like life was kind of passing me by, yet I wasn't really doing anything about it. But what I came to realize is that I could actually use those feelings of sadness and frustration as the exact tool or the exact fuel to just get off my ass and actually start doing some of these things that I wanted to do, and to start taking that action. And even now, when I'm much better at actually taking action, I still use this sort of mindset, for instance, when I can't really be bothered to do things, because a lot of the time I don't still always have 100% motivation to do some of the things that I know I need to do. But I just try to remind myself that I don't want to stay the same and I want to make progress. And by just encompassing that mindset, it gives me that fuel to actually do some of these things that I want to do. So there you go. So if your life does feel like it's stuck in a loading screen, stop waiting and just press start anyway. And just remember, you don't need perfect conditions to start. You just need a little bit of courage and a small first step. I hope you found this video useful. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.